Hi. My name is Alessandro. I already been introduced, so I will keep it short. My talk today is called the Imaginary Constitution: The Role of Imagination and Culture in Coop Models, and I'm just sharing some initial insight based on my own research and our collective research on imagination and imaginative practices, and at the same time a project that I'm working at with Josh actually, Ron and Rade. Where Rade? There. This project is called Shared Vision. It's a European funded project. It's an nascent cooperative for visual artists based in Serbia. And we recently been to Belgrade. We had our kickoff meeting, and it was very interesting for me to see how, I'm afraid because this is recorded, but I mean, our collective body is formed, and what is the role of culture and imagination in allowing people that at the moment are sharing resources and also intention in a certain sense to actually become something that is really a collective entity and is not just a bunch of individuals arguing or like discussing. All right, this guy here is Castoriadis, Cornelius Castoriadis. He's a French Greek philosopher, a Marxist, like very radical alternative Marxist. He also worked at the OECD, and he wrote a book that is the Imaginary Institution, sorry. And for Castoriadis, our institutions, our organization are not only formed by the rules, the norms, the structures that we use and that contain them, but they are also entangled in a common imaginational space, in networks of symbols. And these symbols and these networks of symbols, these imaginaries, are helpful to form meaning and to bond together people basically with their action and to continually, they are productive basically. They produce the goal of the organization, the meaning of what the organization does, and the individuals involved in the organization as well. So I give you an example. What do you think when you see this symbol? Ecco, exactly. But this is a watermelon, right? So that's the difference in Castoriadis' philosophy, at least. That every symbol is not only the graphical representation or the symbolical representation, like literal, but there is also an imaginary component that is shared and is social. And from this imaginary component, the symbols indeed can have a productive role and a productive force in orienting, for example, in this case, solidarity and in creating a mechanism of common recognition among, aligned people, for example. So these symbols compose what Castoriadis calls an imaginary. And this is us. That's Josh. Yeah. So this is Shared Vision. Shared Visions, as said, is a cooperative, is funded under a European Creative Grant. And it is a very interesting mix of people because it includes organizers, artists, and arts organization, me and Josh, and like Brad Chain, Corvlaz, let's say crypto curious people or crypto leftists, and people that come from very different contexts and geographical, cultural regions, and are working under the umbrella of a European project. Okay, so we were in Serbia. Serbia didn't have exactly, and the whole area of the Balkans, a simple relationship with Western European countries, right? And this geopolitical rift is not only like a theoretical problem, but was something that, in my opinion, at least in my observation, emerged quite concretely in our activities. Also, in the attempt of what we are trying to do is not only funding a cooperative, but forming a collectivity, basically, without, let's say, without knowing each other very well. It's not based only on personal friendship or relationship. And so what I'm intrigued by is the idea that not only by having, and this is also, I think, relevant for the space and in a way for blockchain. So you see that the cyber scene is hanging at the wall, no? What does cyber scene represent? Represents something more than just the idea of just what blockchain is doing today, but is also an imaginary reference to a future, or in this case, it's a past, but let's say a recovery of a possible future that correlates digital technology, cybernetic, with democratic participation, leftist plan. It's falling now. This is Allende's spirit, basically. And so I think that this is a very interesting reference for creating basically a meaning-making process that allows all the people that are part of an organization also to squash in a certain way their differences and to create, again, systems of symbols and meanings that are collectively shared and narratives. So my proposal, that or like what we are exploring, I think it's interesting, and it's like among the many discussions we had in Belgrade, I think that an interesting moment to also overcome this like West-East divide that I also personally find very justified. So it's not that I am criticizing the critique, but I think it's not productive to carry on the project, of course. Is to appeal to other imaginaries. An interesting imaginary we are exploring, or that we will explore more, is the imaginary of non-aligned countries, the movement of non-aligned countries. That is, to be very short, because I think the time is almost over, is this kind of forgotten story from the Cold War, where all the former colonial countries, led by Yugoslavia, that is where Serbia was part of Yugoslavia, obviously, Socialist Republic, and Egypt, Indonesia, India, they founded this like alliance that was based basically on solidarity and on not joining each one of the two blocks, so the US and the Soviet blocks, but maintaining a non-aligned position. That doesn't mean neutral. It means that you can like interact with both, but what you are like, at least in my reading, let's say, what you are trying to do is to organize according solidarity, to create different networks of people, to overcome simplistic division. And I think that in this case, in our case of our cooperative, this can be an interesting referent. Similarly, as like cyber scene, like cyber socialism can work for like bread chain in this room right now, to, let's say, project a future that is not only, or like even a present, that is not only grounded in our, in the current material condition and also symbolic references that we have in like thinking about the division between, I don't know, Germany and Serbia or Balkans, but also referring to another system of symbols and signifiers that can project, for example, solidarity, care, transcultural dialogue, and simply not falling a victim to very simplistic dualism. So, yeah, this is Castoriadis quote. I think I would like to close with this, but yeah, what I want to say is that how does this get a little bit more concrete? It doesn't, but first of all, it doesn't. No, but I mean, also Castoriadis refers as culture as something productive. So culture is a poetic process, and culture is then translated, at least in what I do personally, and many others in this room and beyond, in creating experiences like writing, doing research, writing text, working with media, creating games, workshop, all these kind of cultural practices. I think they can be very fundamental in the case of like the formation of collectivities to indeed start to create and to foster this symbolic network that I was referring to today. And I think that let's say what is at stake here, as this quote refers to, is not only I mean, some like kind of vegetarian artistic production or like explorative fantasies, but more literally our own liberation. Because in the end, if you don't feel that, if you don't try to and don't dare to imagine already with a different language, you will not be able, I think, to reach the goals that, in this case, we as a cooperative are giving to ourselves and are interested in, and as well, I mean, Brad Chain and many other people in this room, in this event, and in this space. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.